I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Elizabeth Neufeld. She's a professor emeritus at David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Neufeld to the stage.
It is an honor to be here and to introduce the champions of hope in science. This is not one individual, but two, Dr. Ann Calof and Dr. Arthur Lander, who are very close colleagues. They work together, they are married to each other, and they are the parents of Isabel, who was born in 2000 with a very rare disease named Cornelia de Lange syndrome, a disease that affects the development of nearly every organ, a disease that is truly catastrophic. By coincidence, our honorees are developmental biologists. And so, in memory of Isabel's short life, they decided to dedicate themselves to finding the cause and the treatment of Cornelia de Lange syndrome. They activated a vast network of scientists who would join them in this endeavor and discovering in the process an entirely new area of science and paving the way for diagnosis and treatment strategies. The progress they have already made in this scientifically very complex problem is nothing short of astounding. And it has implications also for more common birth defects, such as congenital heart disease. In addition to research, they also seek to disseminate information about the disease to parents, to extended families, to other scientists, and to students in order to accelerate the research and finding a treatment. So I would like to present to this year's Rare Champion in Science Award to Dr. Ann Calof and Dr. Arthur Lander.
So, thank you so much. It's a great honor and very humbling to be here. It's especially an honor to receive the award from Dr. Neufeld, whose own contributions to research on rare diseases have been so important over the years. 17 years ago, Ann and I would never have imagined being in this room, much less on this stage. As I imagine must be true for many of the people in this room, we didn't choose to become involved in a rare disease. A rare disease chose us. And as with most parents of children with Cornelia de Lange syndrome, we were taken by surprise, and we had to work very quickly through shock and comprehension and then acceptance, and in our case, we also had to work through grief. But as I think is also often the case with parents of kids with rare diseases, the experience opened our eyes to many wonderful things in the world that we might otherwise have missed. In particular, it taught us how powerful compassion can be as a motivating force. When our daughter Isabel was born, she and we were shown great compassion by the wonderful NICU doctors and nurses at UC Irvine, by geneticist Maureen Boshin, by people like the late Jerome Tobis, a deeply caring medical ethicist. But more unexpected, at least to me, has been how compassion has motivated the researchers with whom Ann and I have interacted since starting to work in our own laboratories on CDLS. You may know that these are tough times in the biomedical research world right now. Since 2003, the year after we helped Ian Kranz's lab identify the first causal gene for CDLS, The research budget of the National Institutes of Health has been going down as a fraction of GDP every year and now stands at just over 60% of where it was back in 2003. The budget of the National Institute of Child Health, which funds a lot of the research on childhood genetic disorders, has declined even more than that. In times like this, there's a great incentive to researchers to want to focus on their own needs, on their careers, to follow the research dollars and go wherever they may, and very often that's really not in the direction of childhood genetic diseases. But what Ann and I have found whenever we and others have reached out to scientists to join in the search for answers about CDLS, the response has been absolutely overwhelming, even when this kind of research was something that was never in the sights of the individuals involved before. This has been true not only for some great faculty at UC Irvine, where we work, and around the world, whom we collaborate with, but especially for quite a number of extremely dedicated and hardworking members of Ann's laboratory and mine. Two of whom in particular we'd like to recognize because they're in the audience, Shimako Kawauchi and Rosie Santos. They've been members of Ann's lab working on the CDLS project since the very beginning. And I'm really convinced that what's motivated them to keep going for so long on this work has been the compassion that they feel for the parents and the children who are challenged with this and other genetic disorders. We'd also like to extend our thanks to the National Institute of Child Health and the March of Dimes for their support of our work, particularly in these difficult funding times, and really voice our appreciation for the CDLS USA Foundation, which is a fantastic organization, and despite being stretched quite thin with all the wonderful family services they provide, they always manage to find a little bit of money for research as well. And finally, we'd really like to thank Global Genes for its critical role in raising awareness, because we think this is really the only way to change things and get some more funding and activity and research in this important area. Ann and I have always considered it a real privilege to be able to devote our efforts and direct the efforts of our lab members to this work, and we're truly thankful for the recognition that you've shown us here today. Thank you.